Okay, I think we're live, Kip. I'm not completely sure here. So if you're watching this is the live stream of ARLnow.com's election coverage. I am Scott Broadbeck. I am the editor of ARL Now. This is a live coverage of the election from Saycraft Brewing here in Clarendon. This is a great bar if you've never been. They were so kind to actually let us broadcast here. Yes. The Arlington County Democratic Committee happens to be having their event right behind us in about half an hour or so. We don't know. We think you're going to be seeing speakers from elected officials to local Democrats, and throughout the night we're going to have, when that's not going on, we're going to be interviewing folks like Kip here. Kip is the chair of the ACDC, and we have some other people coming. So, Katie, what do you think? Are we broadcasting? It does appear that we are. I guess people on the internet are watching this right now, maybe.
Okay, well, very good, very good.
All right, so on the assumption that people are actually listening to us and this live stream is working.
Sure.
Kip, tell us what happened today. How did the election go from a Arlington County Democrat's perspective?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to thank you in ARL Now for hosting us and asking us to be invited and be part of your program. So thank you for that. What we saw today was the culmination, obviously, of a almost 2-year-long campaign from the most qualified nominee that we've ever had, and the first female nominee that we've ever had, Hillary Clinton. And we saw, as your headline indicates, extraordinarily heavy turnout. We don't have the final numbers yet, but I can say with confidence it's north of 115,000 voters, which would break the record from 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a huge thing, and we think that Arlington is going to play a pivotal role in making Virginia blue.
Very, very nice, very nice. So turnout was very high.
Yes.
What are the people on the ground telling you in terms of is this gonna break records? What kind of did the young people turn out? What's some of the intelligence from the ground?
There's. I want to start by saying there's more that I don't know than I do know right now, but I do know that all over the county we were looking at turnout compared to 2012, which was another record year for election day turnout, and in the far majority of precincts, we exceeded that turnout on a hour-to-hour basis. So we saw lots of people voting, lots of young people voting, lots of minorities voting, people from all different walks of life in Arlington coming out and voting their conscience. We think that is actually a very good thing for Hillary Clinton and all of our Democrats.
So the results of some of the local races, the county board race, the school board race, these aren't really so much in doubt. We sort of know what's going to happen. That's going to be a good night in that regard. What is a good night for the president, the top of the ticket, the presidential campaign? What does that mean for local Democrats?
Well, it has a huge impact. I mean, as you know, Arlington has got such a strong relationship with the federal government. So many Arlingtonians work for the federal government. To have the federal government being steered by a qualified, steady hand in a direction that's putting more money into infrastructure, that is building up our safety net, that is trying to do more to make us stronger together, that's going to have a huge impact in Arlington. Whereas if the other guy were to win, that would have an incredibly deleterious effect on Arlington, on our local job market, on our residency, on so many different aspects, because people would be afraid of Washington.
So tell me about this election party here. We're at Saycraft Brewing in Clarendon. This is a big space, and it's starting to fill up.
Yeah.
How many people are you expecting tonight? What kind of an atmosphere are you expecting?
We're thinking that we're going to get a big crowd. We didn't set any sort of RSVPs. We just opened it up. We sent out a big email. We posted it on our website to invite people to come, and we just invite everyone who wants to come and watch the results and see what happens and share this moment. We think the far majority of Arlingtonians, even beyond Arlington Democrats, but there's probably good number of independents and even Republicans that voted for our nominee, and would love to have them come join us and watch the results with us.
So, someone was pointing out in the comments today, and yes, we actually pay attention to the comments. People should know this. But someone pointed out in the comments that Marco Rubio was the Republican who did really well in Arlington.
That's right.
During the primaries. You just said that you're expecting some folks to cross over from the other side.
Yep.
To vote for Hillary.
Yep.
What do you think that says about the Republicans here in Arlington, and that there's such a crossover potential?
Well, I think it says several things. That one is that Arlingtonians of all walks of life are very, very independent-minded and could very much think for themselves. And people looked at the qualifications of the candidate and thought about who was going to be best prepared, and they thought that Hillary Clinton, well, I think, we haven't seen yet, but my guess is going to be that she's going to win with an overwhelming margin. But the other factor is, and we've seen this now, in poll after poll, and we'll probably see it in the results here soon, and that's that education is a real divider among support for different Republicans and Democrats, and within the Republican primary, education had a huge component. And the last thing I would say is that diverse communities with a lot of diversity, tend to be the least receptive to Trump's message. And Arlington, of course, is a pretty diverse, inclusive community.
Absolutely. Kip, another comment that came in was someone complimenting you and the job you've been doing as chair of the Democratic Committee. How much longer are you going to be doing this?
Well, first of all, that's very nice. But the thing is, we do this as a team. We really try and work together. That message is stronger together. From the schoolhouse to the White House is something that we really practice, and we really try and bring people together around our nominees. So that's a tribute to many, 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 many hands. But there's been a tradition for the last 3 chairs, and then before that of serving 4 years. I'm not going to term limit myself per se, but I think my girlfriend might have some words if I do it another 2 years. So I think we'll see. But I'm excited to take it forward another year. But gosh, I need a vacation after Wednesday. Yes, a lot of us do. All of us need to take a nice mental health break, read a good book, go for a run, enjoy some of the wonderful, wonderful trails in Arlington, and just do something that's good for us away from politics.
So Kip, we have Peter Ruslow, our ARL Now columnist, on tap here. Before we get to him, I just wanted to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Logistics, if you know this off the top of your head, how many volunteers, how many Arlington Democrats total were the ground game today?
Today. Okay, so I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head.
In total for this campaign.
Oh gosh,
Hundreds?
It would go into the thousands. It's I would say 3,000 to 4,000. Well, we knocked, for example, 20,000 doors last weekend. I don't have the numbers for today, but there's been a huge energy. But the number that I'm most proud of, and I want to give a special shout out to the Young Democrats and Josh Katcher in particular. We registered 24,673 voters, which is a new record
in Arlington County alone.
Yes, just in Arlington, and that was working with Hillary Clinton's campaign, the state party, with tons of volunteers, lots of people just wanted to get involved. Say, I just want to register voters because we have so many people coming through Arlington where we are. We have a lot of transient folks in our community, and we want to make sure that they get registered, they have a chance to choose their leaders and to put down roots of their own.
Very cool. Kip, thanks for coming on, and thanks for having us here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. All right.
We'll let you go. We'll bring Peter Ruslow on in just a minute here. If you want to get back to doing your thing, you can. I'll just talk to everybody out there for a minute. So just thank you, Kip. So logistics of what we're doing here today. We're going to be interviewing, again, local officials, Democratic Party members. Currently, we have a ARLnow.com columnist coming on, Peter Ruslow. We're also going to try to bring you some election results. If you see me glancing over here, it's because we have a laptop there, and we're going to hope to bring you some live election results on video, in addition to the results that you will be seeing on the article itself. We're doing a lot here. We have a small staff. if the lights go off, if the audio stops, please forgive us. This is the first time we did this. But with that, I'd like to hand the mic over to Peter Ruslow, our ARL Now columnist. Peter's Take. Peter, thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's great to be here, Scott.
Tell me about tonight. What are you expecting to see?
Well, I think I'm very cautiously optimistic. I think Hillary Clinton is going to carry Virginia. I think she's going to carry the country. It's been a tough, mean campaign in a lot of ways, but I think it's going to end on a very high note for her.
So, what about the local races? County board, school board. Libby Garvey, who it looks like she's gonna win tonight as well. Are you a supporter of Libby Garvey?
I am a supporter of Libby Garvey. I think she's going to win handily. On the local races, you've got these two school board members who are running unopposed. But if you're looking for sort of straws in the wind tonight locally, the local kinds of things I'm going to look for, I'm going to look to see what kind of a vote separation there is between Donald Trump on the ballot and Charles Hernick, who's running for Congress.
Right.
I'm going to look to see what kind of a vote total Audrey Clement gets running for county board as an independent candidate. Look at the school bond and the other bonds. Is there going to be any big difference between how many votes one of those bonds gets versus the others? It's mostly a straw in the wind thing. Maybe there won't be any straws.
So not everybody in this room might be the biggest Libby Garvey supporter. She was on the outs for a bit with the local Democrats, but they rallied around her in the end after she won in the primary against Eric Gutschall, which was a fairly bruising race for the primary. What's your read on the state of the Arlington Democratic Party at this point?
Well, I think they've gone through a series of transitions that really went back to 2014 when Libby Garvey and Theo Stamos and I and some other Democrats decided we wanted to support an independent candidate for county board. And that kind of created something of a split in the Democratic Party, at least on the local level. As you know, John Weisstadt was very successful both in his special election and general election bid, where he really managed to win when there were 63,000 votes and had 20,000 people voting for him and 20,000 for Mark Warner. So that showed there was a really substantial Democratic vote here that was dissatisfied with what they saw as the sort of some of the policies on the county board. I think since then, 2015, you saw Christian Dorsey and Katie Crystal get elected. They were basically the two Democratic candidates out of the six running who were perceived to have, and I think did have, the greatest distance from the more established wing of the Arlington Democratic Party that had supported some of the other county board candidates. So I think there's been a pretty big transition now. And then in the primary, as you say, Libby Garvey defeated Eric Gutschall. So at this point, I think you see that the group of Democrats that supported Weisstadt and Garvey, Katie and Christian to a large extent, basically they represent the swing vote, I think, in the Democratic Party, at least in local races.
So you were one issue that we seem to keep coming back to is the streetcar, and you were active in Arlingtonians for Sensible Transit, the anti-streetcar organization. Nobody's trying to revive the streetcar at this point, but there are some grumblings about what has the alternative to the streetcar, which is sort of enhanced bus service. As someone who is active in AST, where does that enhanced bus service stand now? And would you like it to see it go further? What are your thoughts on that?
I think my take on it was, it's almost 2 years ago, just about 2 years ago, that Jay Facette announced that the streetcar was canceled. It was November 20th, 2014. And at the time, I think the county board made a mistake when they canceled it. They didn't set time limits on their own staff to come back with an alternative proposal. And I think, especially in retrospect, they should have been stricter about that and looked at those. I know there's been some grumbling about our group. Why didn't you continue to support bus rapid transit, which was the alternative that we advocated for? I think the reason was that our group did form primarily to oppose the streetcar. We pointed out that there was this alternative which was feasible. We dealt with this issue that you can't have bus rapid transit without a dedicated lane. There are actually systems all over the world that run partially on dedicated lanes and partially not. What we advocated was a regional BRT system that would encompass Fairfax, Alexandria, and Arlington. And we had several people in the group that were world-renowned experts on BRT. We gave the county board the names of those people. They know who they are. So, but also, Arlingtonians for Sensible Transit was a group that formed because we felt the existing political institutions in Arlington had failed. And there was a majority who didn't want the streetcar, but they hadn't been able to convince the board to do it. And that was really the driving force of it, but there's still people, individuals in the group that believe that this alternative of an articulated bus or BRT is a better system, and the board knows who they are. If they want to call on them, they can. But we'd also like to see the regular political process produce that result, and so our group is out of business, but individuals are looking to see if they can't pick up the pace there.
Okay, so some very early results here in Virginia that I'm getting on my communication device over here. So with 14% of precincts reporting in Virginia, Clinton 40%, Trump 54%. Obviously, there are going to be a lot more to report in Arlington. It's going to take a little longer to report. At places like Arlington, the Northern Virginia districts that are more heavily populated are probably going to take longer to report than some of the smaller places downstate. And everybody here is expecting Clinton to win tonight. I think it's going to be a very large disappointment if that doesn't happen. Just in terms of a theoretical, though, if Trump somehow finds a way to pull this off, what do you think that's going to mean for Arlington, for Northern Virginia? And you've been involved with the state party as well. What does that mean for Virginia?
Well, let me say first that if you look back at 2008 and 2012, the Republican candidate led in the early returns in Virginia, and they didn't call Virginia for Barack Obama until 11 p.m. And the reason for that is that the big Northern Virginia counties, which are heavily Democratic, especially Fairfax, Arlington, and Alexandria City, they have a history of not incorporating those results into the final numbers until very late in the evening. So if they follow that, I would expect that you'd see those results come in, and really also in Loudoun and Prince William, I think Donald Trump is going to be swamped in Northern Virginia generally because I think Republican moderate women especially and men are just not going to vote for Donald Trump. So I don't think the hypothetical that you posed is going to happen. If by some stretch of the imagination Donald Trump were elected tonight and elected president, I think it would be you'd see a lot of negative reaction in the country. Certainly you'd see a lot of negative reaction in Arlington, a lot of bitter disappointment. I think it will be an interesting number to see tonight in the end how many people vote for Donald Trump in Arlington compared to, let's say, Hernick. How many people vote for Donald Trump in Arlington compared to those who voted for Mitt Romney? You know, there were 34,000 people who voted for Mitt Romney in 2012. What is Donald Trump's number going to look like at the end of the night compared to that? That'll be a good measure of how many Republicans in Arlington didn't vote for him.
Yeah. So, to your knowledge, did the absentee ballots, are those counted later in the night? Because obviously we heard about a lot of absentee ballots being cast, especially here in Northern Virginia. And that could be a difference maker as well.
Yes, and that is also something that happened. You know, when I was party chair in 2006, Jim Webb was the candidate for the U.S. Senate for the Democrats compared to George Allen, who was running for the Republicans. George Allen was ahead all night until very, very late in the evening, and finally when they counted the absentee ballots from Arlington and Fairfax County, it showed that it pushed him ahead finally to win the election. So that is another big number, because those absentee ballots, just like the regular ballots, are going to be very heavily for Hillary Clinton.
So just an update here on some early numbers. We have 15% of precincts in Arlington reporting. Here in Arlington alone, Hillary Clinton 73% of the vote to 18% for Donald Trump, and a smattering for the remaining candidates. Don Beyer, a little surprise here, 67% to 29% for Charles Hernick, 4% for Julia Gracia, I believe is the pronunciation. He was an independent candidate. Libby Garvey, 68% to 30% for Audrey Clement, and Nancy Van Doren and Tanya Talento were running essentially unopposed, and obviously they're going to win 67%. 6,000 votes for Nancy, 2,600 votes for Tanya. We also have questions, two constitutional amendments for the Constitution of Virginia. Those are the first one. Question number one is a question about labor. It's a sort of a right-to-work question. It's already a law in Virginia. This would make it more difficult for unions, and would make it more difficult to kind of walk this back if they put it in as a constitutional amendment. We have 62% in Arlington saying no, 38% saying yes. The second had to do with survivors of first responders and exempting their property tax under certain circumstances. 80% are saying yes to that, 20% no. The four bond issues in Arlington, metro and transportation, parks and recreation, community infrastructure, Arlington Public Schools, those are all yes. Those are all 70+% yes. It certainly looks like those are going to pass. So everything's going the way we think it's going to go in Arlington, pretty much. Maybe the labor question, the constitutional amendment, that might be a little surprise that it's not as much to the no side. You would think if there's one place in Virginia that's going to kind of hold that off, it might be here. But do you have any extra insight on that?
No, I don't have an insight about that. But as you reeled off those numbers, it does sound like Charles Hernick is running way ahead of Donald Trump in Arlington, if I heard those numbers correctly.
So let's see. The numbers are 29% for Hernick to 18% for Trump.
Yeah, so I think that's a significant drop-off for Donald Trump, and I think that's the difference. The 29% for Hernick is in that ballpark near the 34% that Mitt Romney got 4 years ago on the presidential line, but the 18% number for Donald Trump is way off the turnout. So that's a sign of great weakness for the Republican ticket at the top.
I would emphasize again, I mean, it's unlikely that we're going to see much like dramatic movement in this, but this is early. This is 15% of precincts reporting in Arlington. So anything could theoretically happen. Just wanted to add that disclaimer. So Peter, can you tell our audience a little bit about what to expect behind us? We're going to have some speeches a little later tonight.
Right.
We're expecting it as soon as 8 o'clock, and what's going to happen is once those start, we're going to get a mic up there and let our viewers watch that and get a sense of that before we come back and talk to some more folks. But can you give us a sense about what happens at victory parties like this? If the people at home have never been to one, what happens here, and what can they expect?
Well, I think particularly the local candidates on the ballot, Libby Garvey, and the two school board candidates, Nancy Van Doren and Tanya Talento, will want to have a chance to thank their supporters by 8 o'clock on a presidential night when two of those three candidates have no opposition, and Libby Garvey is running already at 70% of the vote. It's clear all three of them are going to be elected, so they're going to thank their supporters. They're going to reaffirm their commitment to the top of the ticket, Hillary Clinton. Don Beyer, I don't know if he's going to have time to stop by tonight, but he would be doing the same kind of thing. It's clear he's going to win as well. So the purpose of it is to come into the victory party where a lot of people have worked hard for those candidates, thank them very much, and tell your audience tonight and other people who may be listening how appreciative they are that the voters have elected or re-elected them to office.
We have behind us, for those who are watching us and not the news channels, and God bless you if you're doing that. If you don't have it in front of you, we're showing a 3% lead in Florida for Hillary Clinton. MSNBC on exclusively at the Democratic Victory Party here. So people are happy about what they're seeing and happening in Florida. Of course, those results, I believe, are early. I'm not Brian Williams or any other sort of national news host, so don't take my word for it, but it does appear like so far so good in Florida. Now, back here to Arlington, the folks who are here, who are these people? Are these people who volunteered at the polls and are now coming in? Are they just people who support the Democrats? There are a couple hundred people here right now here at Saycraft Brewing in Clarendon. Who are they?
They're a mix of all of the above, Scott. They're people who are closely involved in the campaigns for local candidates. They're people who only really care about the presidential race and maybe come to an event like this only once every 4 years. There are people who just happen to have heard about it on social media or want to just stop by and soak it in. So in a group like this, and I've seen people from all those categories sort of across the spectrum. So they represent all those groups.
And I just want to say briefly that because we got some questions about this, we are here at the Democratic Victory Party, not because we are picking a side in this. We are here at the Democratic Victory Party because Arlington is overwhelmingly Democratic. I don't think this is a surprise to our viewers. So if we want to find people like Peter here, they're just going to be more of them here at the Democratic Victory Party. Again, we're not picking sides. Maybe another year we'll go to the Republican Victory Party. Maybe we'll come to Audrey Clement's event. Maybe we'll pick another bar. So this time, we're doing this for the first time again. It seemed to make the most sense to be here. We've invited folks from the other side. We've invited Audrey Clement. We've invited Charles Hernick. We've invited John Weistad to come. Hopefully they will. We're expecting at least one of those folks after the speeches here. Peter, as long as I still have you, I have to ask about being an ARL Now columnist. This is a rare opportunity for people who read the site to actually see you in person, on video, hear you talk, and it's actually a rare opportunity for me. Believe it or not, we for the people at home, we don't talk that often beyond just the exchanges over your weekly columns. So I just wanted to know, what was it, a few years ago that we started the columns?
I was sort of checking my records. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be a columnist on ARL Now. We really I started doing these things in January of 2013. At least by my count, I've had a chance to write 180 columns over almost a 4-year period.
That's quite a few.
It's been a great experience to watch ARL Now grow and develop and expand and move into different kinds of opportunities, podcasts, other kinds of promotional and sponsorships. It's a great opportunity. Anybody out there who's watching this who is interested in
Illinois going for Hillary Clinton, I don't think that's much of a surprise.
No, that's not much of a surprise. But anybody who is interested in
New Jersey.
Well, they're coming fast. I think there's more news ahead. Good news ahead.
We're going to hear a few more woos. If there's anything surprising, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
But so 180 columns is a lot. So that if my math is correct, that is about 3.5 years worth of columns. Would you say Maryland going for Hillary? Would you say that the columns are having an impact? Are they being read? Like sometimes we put them out there, and we know that our readers are reading them, but are they? And we also know that Jay Facette at least read one Right Note column from Mark Kelly because he talked about it at the county board meeting during the parking discussion the other day on Saturday. So we kind of know they're being read, but what is your sense of what sort of impact these are making, and are your columns making a difference?
I think that I think quite a few of them are making a difference in terms of the feedback that I get individually from these columns. I've had conversations with elected officials about these columns. There are
DC went for Hillary.
Yeah, there are some columns, obviously, that are more of interest than others, but I do see a feedback. I know there's an issue before the county board right now where one of my columns is involved in the discussion. So I think it's a great service that you're providing to me and the other columnists to present different perspectives and different points of view on these local issues.
And I also have to ask, have you had any celebrity spottings? Has anybody come up to you and said, I know you from the ARL Now column, someone who you hadn't known before?
I've had a couple of those, and they tend to be in restaurants where we had an interesting case just Saturday night. My wife and I went to dinner, and somebody came up and introduced themselves. So this does happen, and it's always fun to see it.
Now, when we and we're going to maybe get another guest lined up soon, so you can go rejoin the party. But when you started the column, it was just you and Mark. It was sort of a Democrat and Republican kind of an idea, and that's since evolved. Since your opposition to the streetcar, we brought on a second. Too close to call for North Carolina and for Virginia. We brought on a third columnist, sort of with a rotating cast of people who write for it, the Progressive Voice, and so you've sort of assumed a role as perhaps a moderate Democrat. Is that fair to say? Or would you say that you're a moderate Democratic voice in Arlington?
I actually would. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, because I think on a number of issues, I'm actually, to put a simple term on it, to the left of some of the folks who write columns for the Progressive Voice. I really think the distinction when it developed was that I tended to be more questioning of some of the policies of the prior county boards and the insularity of the way they ran the board, not so much the policies themselves, but that there were too few people involved in the decisions. And at least when I started the column in January 2013, I think over time, now that we've gotten some new people on the board, both John Weistat, the Independent, Christian Dorsey, Katie Crystal, and Libby Garvey, that has changed a lot. And so now, in terms of the substance of the issues, sometimes I'm more moderate, sometimes not, but the original impetus of criticizing both the way the board ran and the small number of people involved in the decisions was really the difference between my perspective and the people on the board at the time.
You have a very actionable way of writing your column that I applaud. You kind of say, here's an issue, here's the discussion points, here's my opinion on that. How did you arrive at that
well, I've been involved in politics one way or another for a long time. I started out as a field organizer in Robert F. Kennedy's presidential campaign in 1968, so I've been around politics for a while. And I've also been involved in Arlington politics for almost 20 years. And at this sort of point in my life, I'm really most interested in solving problems. I don't think it's a right-left situation very often. It's I see a problem, I sort of try to figure out how to solve it, and then I say what I think that is, and try to do it in a space that your readers and viewers have the time to grasp and absorb. It's not 3,000 words, because they bail on it way before then. So that's just a style that I kind of evolved into to try to make it more constructive and productive. Whether people agree with me or not, that's fine. But it's more of there is a solution. Here's the one I think is the best. If you have a better one, tell us what it is.
Yeah, and as I said, I think readers appreciate it. The shorter, the more to the point, I think makes a big impact. So one thing I wanted to say to the people who are watching us, you're presumably watching us one of two ways. You're either watching us directly from ARLnow.com. We have the live stream posted on there. Or you're watching via YouTube directly if you're our YouTube subscriber. There's actually a third way. We're planning on making this our podcast for the week. So some folks might be hearing this afterwards, might not be getting quite the full excitement of being here live, if it's exciting, I don't know. But the upshot of being live, for the people who are watching us live, is that we get to see the comments coming in on the story. And they're very few at this point. So the top one is ARL Now Snark commenters. Where's the love? I agree. If you make a comment on this story and we find it interesting enough to, we're going to read it here on the air. So if you want to shout out, go ahead and tell us what you think of the elections and what's going on here. Peter, we're going to have Tanya Talento coming on. Am I pronouncing her first name correctly?
Yes, Tanya Talento.
Tanya Talento. Okay. That's good. We're live, so I don't get to ask someone else that. We're going to have her coming on. She's going to be one of our next school board members. There have recently been some joint meetings between the school board and the county board. I believe you've actually written a little bit about this and some of the joint facilities discussions. What are your thoughts on cooperation between the two boards and how they can work together and how they can solve this current facility crisis we're in? We have too little land, too little facilities for our schools and some of our...
I have written a little bit about that, and I do have some thoughts. First of all, that was the lack of cooperation between the boards was one of the things that I commented on several times when in the first couple of years writing the column, and that was one of the examples of my criticisms of the way the county board in particular used to operate over the 2013-2014 time period. I think progressively now in the last couple of years, the boards have been moving more closely together because people out in the community expect them to cooperate over issues like the shortage of land and the need to decide what goes where. And I think they're really improving in that respect. On October 1, the two boards held what amounted to a retreat. It was a public meeting on a rainy Saturday. They might have done a little bit better job publicizing it, but they spent about 5 hours together talking about a lot of these issues. They had another meeting on November 1. They're about to appoint a joint facilities group that is going to look together at these issues of land and which ones might be suitable for schools and which ones for something else. So I think this is a very good trend. I think the two boards are working increasingly well together, and I hope they keep it up.
Well, Peter, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you coming on here.
Enjoy the rest
of your
night.
All right. And we'll bring Tanya on here in a second. So just for our viewers, if you saw Kip walking around behind me, he is updating voting boards here with results for different states. Putting a check mark near Illinois is what he was doing back there just now. So we do have quite a bit of activity happening here at Saycraft Brewing in Clarendon. Tanya, I'll give you the headphones, and then when you put those on, I'll give you the mic. You can adjust them if you need to. Got it?
Yep.
There you go. Tanya Talento, school board candidate.
Yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm excited. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear all the good news because I'm positive Hillary's going to take it. I know she is.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here. You are going to be our next one of our newest school board member.
Yes.
There's a lot of responsibility that goes along with that. You're going to be at school board meetings late at night.
I'm already doing that.
Why?
I've already been training.
Let me ask you this. Why did you run? Why did you choose to run for school board?
Because I felt that I had really invested the last 5 years in our community, and I found that in a lot of the committees I was on, we were missing some voices, and I wanted to make sure that I could bring that to the school board. That perspective, being a child of immigrant parents, having been low income, having to advocate for my own education, I actually achieved the American dream by working my way up in this country. So I thought that I would add value to that if I brought that to the school board, and having been so active in our committee system. Sorry, my headphones are falling.
You need to adjust it. Here, let me see the headphones real quick. Let me get this for you. Live TV, folks.
Live TV.
I know, right? All right, see if that works. A little better? Okay.
That's much better. Yep, so that's sort of what drove my passion to run, and I am here today excited. It's been a wonderful journey, amazing meeting so many of our community members and learning about their passion. So I'm excited to be representing Arlington County.
So some late nights at 1015 North Quincy Street, I believe. No, that's the library. Sorry, I was trying to be impressive.
It is on Quincy Street, though.
But it's just on that. It's basically on that block.
Yes.
So you have children in school, is that correct?
Do, yes.
What are their ages?
So I have a junior and a senior right now. My junior is 16 and my senior is 17, and I have 3 stepsons who are APS graduates, and they're currently in college.
Have they informed part of what you're hoping to bring to the school board policy-wise?
Can you repeat the question?
Have what they told you about their experience in school? Has that informed any of what you're doing on the school board?
Yes, actually, one of the things that I really want to work on the school board is bringing mental health awareness to our community, and I know that many of our high school students are under a lot of stress. They're dealing with anxiety and body image issues and depression. So I really think that it's time for our community to start having open discussions and being able to support each other. And while the mental health system in our country is not amazing, Arlington County does really well compared to the rest of the country. Yeah. So we have the resources here. So I'm really hoping to work on that. And of course, eliminating the achievement gap, but that's a constant passion for all of us here in the community. I think we can do it. So I'm excited.
So in Arlington, you currently have some redistricting taking place in terms of the high schools. They're calling them boundary adjustments or refinements, I think it is. So you have basically Washington Lee is overcrowded. Do your do your kids go to?
They're at Washington Lee.
They're at Washington Lee.
So they're dealing with the overcapacity issues.
So there's Washington Lee's overcrowded. Not that the other schools are aren't crowded as well, but they're certainly less crowded than Washington Lee. So you're going to be bringing some students from Washington Lee to Yorktown and some to Wakefield. This is always a contentious process. In fact, a lot of what happens on the school board is contentious because you're dealing with people's children.
Right, the most precious thing in their lives.
Very, very high expectations for the way that their children are going to be educated in the kind of environment they're in. So I'm just sort of wondering, with boundary refinements in mind, how do you balance that? How do you balance making what might be the right decision with what some of the passions of the people affected by the positions?
That's I think one of the toughest things as school board members that we'll have to do in our work is boundary changes. I don't know if there is a great answer, because when you change the boundaries, you are affecting someone's life, period. And your hope is, what's great about Arlington County is that all of our high schools are amazing. All of our schools are amazing. When we look at our system as a whole, we are one of the best in the country. And that's the beauty of it, that I feel confident that no matter how we adjust our boundaries, that we will be sending our students to great schools. And so I think that helps as a leader to have to make those decisions, but I can't say that I can make any of those decisions lightly, because I know that I would be affecting someone and their family, and those are hard decisions to make. So I think you do the best that you can do. You follow your policy guidelines, you listen to the community, you reach out to every single community that's affected to make sure that you understand all of the challenges that they will face if their boundaries are moved, and how you can support that change if you go that way.
Yeah, so some of the people who have commented on the boundary refinement story that we ran, the last one, made the point that all Arlington high schools are good, have great teachers. So that, I guess that is something to keep in mind when these things happen, but nonetheless, any decision made in Arlington has impacts and has people who feel strongly on.
Yes, of course.
on
We're
any
Arlington.
side. Yeah, this is
Yes.
essentially the Arlington way.
But,
Is
it means that we're passionate community members, that we're involved and we care, and that's what makes Arlington great. I think that it's because of that kind of community involvement that we are such an amazing place to live.
So you mentioned how you were able to kind of achieve the American dream here. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you might apply that on the school board to helping others achieve that, to helping some of these folks who might be caught in the achievement gap?
Yeah, so my story was, I had challenges growing up. My mother died when I was 19. I was one of the oldest children in my household, so I helped support my family along with my older sister. We sort of tag teamed that. And my younger siblings, they participated too. We all took parts in helping to keep our family together. And I was having a hard time. I had to withdraw. I actually had to drop out of high school and register an alternative program to get my diploma. And then I started working full-time as a file clerk and started going to Nova at night. And it was really, really hard for me. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't understand the rigor of college, the rigor of the coursework, but I worked my butt off to try to get it done. And then my mother died, and I ended up caring for my brother, and it just became too much to try to do all three. So there's a love story in there, and I had a family, but I worked my way up as a file clerk to research assistant to legal secretary, working hard, learning a trade, making sure that I perfected that trade. And I moved my way up. I ended up working at Skadden Arps as a legal secretary for some of the top attorneys in that law firm. And I was able to provide for my children. I was able to have vacation time and sick leave and chaperone a field trip on occasion and, opportunities here in Arlington like extended day. That's how I made my life here in Arlington. We were living on Columbia Pike. I was renting an apartment. So I was slowly getting there. And I think the key is really helping our community to understand I will finish college before I die. That is my goal. But I also achieved success without that degree. And I think that in our country, we need to remember there are different ways to get that success. I mean, only 40% of Americans have a college degree. So the majority of Americans don't. How are we surviving here? Hard work, understanding work ethics, learning a skill. And here in Arlington, we are amazing. We're such a well-educated community that we push for that college education, but we also need to understand there's other ways to achieve success. So I'm looking forward to bringing that perspective to the school board.
Very good. Have you had a chance to spend much time with your fellow school board members? Is there team building that goes into this? What goes on behind the scenes when you become a school board member?
So I'm proactive. I can't speak for prior school board candidates, but I have been making an effort to meet with school board members since I started running. And of course I was coming from the committee process. I had worked with a lot of them just as a community advocate. And so now we were sitting down and I'm trying to understand the processes right now where they're looking at budgets, they're looking at how school boundary changes, capacity issues. So I feel like I'm training, learning about this so that when I come on board January 1st and I have to make a vote, it's a vote that I'm informed on. And so yes, and I think the school board right now has a great chemistry. They really are looking at working well together. They don't always agree, but it's neat to see that dynamic as well because two people may not agree on one thing, but then they're agreeing on an issue, and that's a working school board. That's how you reach compromise and change. So I'm very excited to be a part of this team.
Do you have anything that you would consider a signature initiative that you're going to hope is to get accomplished in your first year on the board?
I don't know if I'm that ambitious because coming in as a new school board member, I really want to make sure I know what I'm doing. But my focus, so if I can do anything, my first year would really be to just continue the mental health focus and the whole child advocacy that we're doing in Arlington County. I know that the county is working on some initiatives for mental health, but I think that we can do more without necessarily investing more financial resources. I think we have a lot of resources already in our community. So I'm really hoping to bring that to the forefront of every policy change that we get a chance. I would love to eliminate the achievement gap in the next 4 years, and I think my fellow school board members are also on that track. So that would be amazing if we accomplish that, and I think we can do it. I don't know if it'll be in my term. And then really managing our capacity changes so that everyone has a seat in a quality high school and elementary and middle school.
I mean, that is a major issue facing.
I know.
I mean, we haven't brought it up until now, but it's one of the biggest things people are talking about. And when your children are going to class in trailers, there's something left to be desired there.
Right. Well, I mean, I went to elementary school in trailers, high school in trailers, so I understand the stresses that come with that.
There is some talk right now about whether we need a fourth comprehensive high school. There are some saying that we could perhaps restructure how school works, how high school works, so that you don't necessarily need every single high school student in that high school at that at the same time. That's sort of on one end. Somewhere in the middle is maybe we can have another magnet high school, another. I think magnet's the right word. There's another word that's used in Arlington that's not coming to mind right now. But do you have any thoughts on that? Are we going to need a fourth comprehensive high school, or are we looking at maybe something else?
I think that in an ideal world we would have a fourth comprehensive high school, but I've been studying the pieces of land that we have available, and none of them really have the amount of acres that we need to build another high school like Washington or Yorktown or Wakefield. And so it puts us kind of in a bind. What kind of high school would we bring to the table? And when I find that we have a problem, I try to get creative and be innovative. So here's an issue. We don't have the land that we would need to have it comparable to a comprehensive high school. So what can we do? How can we bring an amazing opportunity to our high school students? I think we need to involve the community. We need to take the community with us the whole way. I would be interested in looking at new programs. I know that the Virginia Board of Education is looking at the new profile of a graduate, which is actually going to change how our students are experiencing high school. And how is that going to reflect here in Arlington? It will be interesting. I think we'll be one of the leaders. We're looking at internships, externships, community service as being one of our SOL verified credits, which is exciting because I'm not a big fan of tons of testing. We're looking at bringing 9 SOL verified credits to just 4, with one of them being that job initiative. So I think it's important for us to just keep an open mind as we explore the new education reform that's coming our way between the profile of a graduate and that every student succeeds at. But we need to bring the community with us, and they need to be a part of that decision process. So I'm not really sure where we'll head, but the conversation needs to start happening now.
So I wanted to update everybody, and of course my computer shut down right as I was doing this. So we have 51% of Arlington precincts reporting now. We're doing periodic updates. We have Jim Beyer Congressman Beyer again at 67%, Charles Hernick 28%, Libby Garvey 70%, Audrey Clement 28%. So not that the election tonight was necessarily in doubt, but just to keep everybody updated that those are the numbers we're seeing. The latest we're seeing for the presidential race in Arlington, it's basically the same. 73% Hillary Clinton, 19% Donald Trump. Again, this is 51% of precincts reporting. So Donald Trump in Arlington has yet to cross into the 5-digit range in terms of number of votes. So let's get back to you real quick. We're expecting some speechifying to happen behind us at some point tonight. You are presumably going to be one of the people making the speeches.
Yes.
Could you give us a little preview? What are you going to be talking to your fellow Democrats about?
Well, I think I need to be realistic and acknowledge that everyone's here for Hillary. So I will keep it short and sweet. I don't think I'll talk much about policy issues or my vision, because I think everyone will be focused on Hillary, but I would love the community to know that I'm always happy to have those conversations. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to sit down and understand your perspective, your point of view, your passion, and how you would like me to represent you, and I'll do my best to make sure I'm taking care of all the
responsive democracy in action. Tanya, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We have your fellow school board candidate, Nancy Van Dorn, behind us.
She's
and I
pretty
think
awesome.
We'll try to talk to her real quick before the speeches start.
Yes, and thank you for having me. Wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you so much. All right, so while we bring Nancy Van Dorn on, who is the other, of course, school board candidate, Nancy, welcome. You can. So Scott Brodbeck. Very nice to meet you. It's actually kind of
on computer. Or
it's kind of shocking that we've never met. So we're live right now. You'll have to flip that one outside. Yep, there we go. So we're live right now on YouTube. Can you hear?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep. Hi.
Great.
Good evening.
So we're live on YouTube.
All right.
We're streaming out to people who are watching the election at home and maybe had enough of the national coverage for a little bit, and they're checking in on the local coverage. We're going to try to update people on the national goings on here too.
Okay.
We can barely see MSNBC up here.
Yeah.
So I also promised people that we would read some comments if they commented on the on our story here. Here's a comment referencing the name of the post that we are doing the election results on. Polls close, Arlington County awaits election results. That was the name of the post. That was the headline we used. Putin's Haxor, our commenter's name, said, "I don't have to wait. I decided the results weeks ago." So a little humor from someone pretending to be Vladimir Putin. Nancy, we'll get away from the frivolity for a second and talk about the school board with you.
Okay.
So we just talked to Tanya Talento, and like Tanya, guess what? The results went your way tonight.
Yes.
You and Tanya were running for two seats, essentially
seats,
without
uncontested.
Uncontested. I think there were 4% wrote in Donald Duck or whatever they write into such things, but.
I always say if I'm going to lose to Donald Duck, I've got to watch what I'm doing.
Before this, you went through a endorsement process, a Democratic endorsement process. For people who don't know, the school board race is officially nonpartisan.
Yes.
They don't put your party affiliation next to your name. So, but before this, during primary election time, there's an endorsement caucus where Arlington Democrats get together and vote to say who they want to endorse for the school board.
Right.
Thank you. Live TV. I'm starting to stumble over words.
No
I've been doing well for like an hour, and now it's all going to go downhill. So, can you tell people a little bit about that process? What went on before that? You were. This is not your first rodeo. You were an incumbent in this.
I actually ran twice before this. So the first time I ran was in 2014, and I ran against Greg Greeley and Barbara Cannon, who are actually both here this evening and have become, quite good friends, good colleagues. Greg.
I saw Greg standing over here. I now see Jay Facette behind him. Where he was.
We ran against each other, and it was a great race. Very substantive, lots of important issues covered, and I lost to Barbara Cannon in that race by just a few votes, and that was the race for the endorsement for the Democratic Party.
Right.
So she, at that point in 2014, was the Democratic endorsee. Then Noah Simon had to, for family reasons, resign from his position, and I ran for his seat. And at that point, I also sought the Democratic endorsement, gained it, and that resulted in Barbara and I both being on the ballot simultaneously in 2014 for two separate seats, and actually technically in two separate elections. One, the regular general election, the other, a special election. This is detail that probably escapes some people, but that is the reason why I needed to run again 2 years later, because it was only the 2 years filling out Noah Simon's term. So this is my third time around. So usually what's happened with the Democratic Party, since it's vastly the majority party in Arlington, you seek their endorsement, and with that, unless there is a independent or somebody else who challenges you and puts a name on the ballot, usually that ends up being the person or the people on the ballot. In this case, it's every 4 years, it's two open school board positions, as there were two open county board positions last year.
Right. So you made it through the Democratic endorsement caucus.
Yes.
Not really much of a challenge as the incumbent.
Right.
There were others who were running.
Yes.
And Tanya was the biggest vote getter other than yourself.
Right.
In that process. So just wanted to clear that up. Okay, so going forward, next 4 years on the school board.
Yes.
What are your priorities, and what are you going to be? What is the school board going to be focused on? Do you think?
That's interesting, because I was just talking about that with some of my supporters. I ran for the school board to really work on closing the achievement gap, making sure that every single student in Arlington achieves in whatever way they choose to do that, be successful in college or the labor market. We are so close to doing that in Arlington. It's a passion of mine because it's primarily students with disabilities and English language learners where we really have to close the gap. And we can do it. We're at 97% graduation rate. We need to nail that. We have no reason not to. We spend a lot of money on the schools. We should be able to do it. So that's my focus. But most people would say, oh, you have to make sure you have enough facilities. Our current CIP has us completing 95% of the seats we need by 2025. To me, that's structural. The most important thing is what happens in the classroom with the kids and the teachers.
So in other words, the building out of facilities to accommodate all the extra students we have, we're over capacity at our schools. But basically the planning for that is largely complete in terms of
through 2025
the capital budgeting.
Yes, and that's the blessing of being in Arlington. We have money, we have resources, and we can build schools. We can renovate buildings like we're doing with the 3 high schools. We've moved into Fenwick. We're going to be announcing soon some additional moves that will free up some additional space, so you can watch for that.
Oh, okay.
We're doing everything the community wanted us to do in terms of finding alternative space for administrative staff, renovating buildings to make them more efficient, and then building buildings where we have to, and we're going to do it. And, that part, because we have the resources, it's almost the easier part.
So back in I think it was 2011 when it became clear that Arlington's student population was increasing a lot more than we originally thought it was going to. We referred to this as a capacity crisis on ARLnow. And at the time, it looked like a big wave was approaching us. A big wave of students was approaching us, and a lot of the talk. There wasn't as much of a focus on building new schools at that point, I would say. But we're 5 years later. We're still building schools, but we're largely. Are we thinking that wave of students is cresting, and that the current planning is going to accommodate the students once we get to whatever point we're going to get with them?
Our capital improvement plan goes out 10 years. We build out in those 10 years. The projections are that the population will continue to grow, and we do a capital improvement plan every 2 years. As we move out, we will continue to add buildings on within the funding capacity that we have.
So let me ask that a different way. What is the thinking on what kind of student enrollment growth we're going to see in Arlington?
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do know that we are projecting to have over 30,000 students by 2025, and that it will continue to grow.
We have random woos behind us. We were talking about them earlier. I believe that their MSNBC is currently showing a electoral map showing the different counties in Arlington. And suffice to say, down in the Southwest, it's a lot of red, and up here in Northern Virginia, there's a lot of blue.
But we don't have our blue in yet.
And current results on MSNBC: 51% Trump, 44% Hillary.
Yes, I just got a text from my brother in Connecticut saying, "Come on, Arlington."
Yeah,
we'll give her some votes.
A lot of the votes Hillary is going to be getting are coming from Northern Virginia, and right here in Arlington. Arlington could, potentially be a difference maker.
We could be giving her 100,000 votes
over the top.
Yep.
So
that's our job.
So talk about what's going on in this room right now.
Yes.
If we see that happen, do you think people are going to stay here until late at night?
I think so. I mean, I have been part of the joint campaign that has been working since the summer, since the end of the caucuses and the primary, to get out the vote. And, there were 36,000 absentee ballots submitted in Arlington. Only, I think, 2,000 of the ballots that were sent out were not returned, which is a phenomenal return rate. And every Sunday evening we've been meeting, talking about how to make sure to get every single person who can vote to vote. And we're already well over 75% of voters in Arlington have voted. So that's amazing.
Arlington does a lot. Arlington. Could you talk about the Arlington County Democratic Committee and how prolific it is? I don't know if people get the sense of just how well it's reputed to operate among other Democrats in the state. Could you talk to that a little bit?
Well, I think many people come to Arlington to find out how we operate. And there is really a very strong organization that goes right down to the very blocks in your neighborhood. And there are precinct captains and area captains in it. It's really a very strong organization that is well populated. All the positions are filled, and everybody does their job. And it down to calling your neighbors to make sure everybody's gone out to vote. And it's a very tight organization that does the job. The history of that, at some point, you all ought to look into that, because there was a period of time when Arlington was heavily Republican. And it's that organization that turned Arlington to being a Democratic organization. And a lot of the older people who are part of ACDC made that happen.
How did that, could you talk briefly about how that happened? That's
well, interestingly, it was rooted in the schools. A lot of the galvanizing around the Democratic Party came from the fact that they couldn't get more money spent on funding the schools. So the Democrats began an alternative organization and then slowly built and strengthened the Democratic Party based on the premise that they believed education needed to be funded. And that was the galvanizing issue.
I think people, especially younger people who have recently moved to Arlington, might not realize that at some point, even though it's very much a blue county right now, it
wasn't always.
Yeah.
You can talk to. I love to talk to older people who served before me. I've interviewed and spent a lot of time with them, like Joe Holy, who was the chair of the county board for at least a couple of terms, and they were always a 3-2 board. And you had to learn to govern when you weren't, as you are in as they have in the Senate and the House, how to govern when you're not a majority. And for a long time, we've had a Democratic majority, but that hasn't always been the case.
Right. So, what are? We'll let you go here. We'll try to. We're expecting the speeches really at any moment here. But we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get back to the party here.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could share your thoughts on just what happened. We've been expecting Hillary to take Virginia. We're at last check 72% of precincts in Arlington reporting, and she's behind. What does it say about Virginia if she's not able to make up that difference?
I think she will make up that difference.
Oh, come on.
I really do. Look, I can't let go of that
yet. Be that as it may, are you willing to volunteer some thoughts on the current state of Virginia as a purple state? This is there's been talk about it becoming more democratic with growth in Northern Virginia, including growth here in Arlington. But until very recently, this was considered a red state. So, could you talk generally about where you think that stands?
I think it's gonna be a Democratic state. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think the numbers are going to come in. I really believe that. I mean, my son goes to UVA, and I get that feeling when I end up heading out towards the western part of Virginia. I see more Trump signs. It's a lore in our family. We talk about it, but I do believe it's going to be Democratic. Okay.
Nancy, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll take the mic there. Let's see can we see the sign one more time? Yeah, there it is. There it is. A few signs around. Thank you. All right, so looks like behind me there is some speechifying about to happen. We are getting the mic up there so that we can get the audio. And until then, I'm going to ad-lib. Believe it or not, I normally work behind a keyboard, so I'm not necessarily a television personality, even though I'm playing one on YouTube right now. All right, so I'm being told that, yes, they are about to start the speeches, and we can expect that shortly, and hopefully our audio will get up there to the mic stand so we can hear what they're saying. In the meantime, let me tell you really briefly about the latest results in Arlington. We have 81% of precincts reporting. We have Hillary Clinton receiving 73% of the vote, 50,500 votes going to Hillary right now. Donald Trump getting 12,678, which is an 8% vote total. The
Sorry, I wouldn't be able to do it myself.
the third party candidates, Gary Johnson, Evan McMullen, Jill Stein, they are collectively getting 7% of the vote, 2% going to write-in candidates. So obviously Hillary is getting the lion's share of the vote here. The difference in terms of the votes
I guess I can go like this when I speak, and other people.
that Arlington is supplying,
and so you want us to speak like this so that it
and
goes
you're
into
hearing them
vote?
talking about what's going to happen audio-wise
Speak into vote.
behind us. So apologies for that. But in terms of the bulk number of votes, the net number of votes that Arlington is sending Hillary's way, it is about 37,500 at this point, give or take. Again, I'm a writer, mostly not a math major, so someone feel free to check me on that. At this time, we have Libby Garvey, 70% of the vote, Nancy Van Doren and Tanya Talento. Nancy's getting more votes than Tanya. She's getting 67% of the vote to 27% for Tanya. But they are both running for two different seats, so they are both on board. Only 6% going right on. These percentages are presented even though it's a two-seat situation. So again, we're going to talk about the constitutional questions. We have the labor question, the right-to-work question. 64% no at this point. We saw some folks out at the polls today with vote no signs. So there was some. I saw them at least in Fairleightton. So they were out there. Kind of the pro-labor folks getting the word out to Arlington residents to vote no on that. Sometimes these constitutional amendments don't get much publicity. The second constitutional amendment was about tax relief for the survivors of fallen public safety personnel. That's getting 80% yes. The four local bond issues, we have Metro and transportation, parks and recreation, community infrastructure, Arlington Public Schools.
So then we can.
These are all getting
That's in there pretty good.
So
then you can
anywhere
raise
between
and lower it. But you need them to be like
79%
this, and they need to
and
speak
80
directly.
and 74%, 79% and 74%. So those are passing easily. What else? What else is there to fill time here as we await the speeches? What I can tell you is that coming up, some of the folks I've seen behind me that we're hoping to talk to, we're going until 9:30, so we might not have enough time. We'll have to see. But we're hoping to maybe get Jay Fassett here, County Board Member Jay Fassett, County Board Chair Libby Garvey, who's the winner tonight. We're also expecting some folks from the other side, perhaps. We're expecting. We're hoping to get Charles Hernick, the Republican candidate for Congress. Audrey Clement may or may not be stopping by the time we go off the air. We hope she does. We are hoping to bring you sort of all perspectives on this before the night is done, and we let you get back to your election party and election drinking party, election watch party, whatever kind of election party you have going on. Maybe you're just at home over it and watching from bed. Whatever it may be, we're hoping to get you back to that at some point here, and we're hoping to do that. The podcast that results from this is under 2 hours. All right, so behind us here, we have the candidates. We have Tanya Talento, who you just saw, Nancy Van Doren, who you just saw, Barbara Cannon is up here.
Good evening, Arlington Democrats.
All right, we'll let them get to it. And I'll
How are y'all doing this evening? This is great. I'm Barbara Cannon, and I'm co-chair of Arlington's joint campaign. Very proud to be here tonight. I want to thank so many of you in this room who are working hard today and working hard over the weekend, over the course of this last month and over the course of this last year. We did so much as a party. I don't think I've ever seen the Arlington Democrats more organized, more disciplined, and more focused than we were this year. Thanks to all of you. I want to take a moment before we start talking to our candidates and talking about results. I want to take a moment and talk about the hardest working beings in this campaign. If you handed out a sample ballot today, if you received a sample ballot, if you looked at the messenger when it came out, if you saw the grip cards, if you saw us at the farmers markets, if you saw us at Not Community Day, if you saw us at Prio Bengala, if you saw us at the Roslyn Jazz Festival, if you saw us on social media, if you got our emails, it is all due to my extraordinary co-chairs on the joint campaign, and I want to make sure you all get a chance to give them a huge, very well-deserved round of applause. My co-chairs, Kim Phillip and Maggie Davis. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie Davis for a few announcements. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, everyone. So in addition to the joint campaign, I am also the vice president of the Arlington Young Democrats. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the Young Democrats in the crowd that really turned out this year and went above and beyond. And specifically, I want to give special recognition to Mr. Josh Ketcher, who pretty much single-handedly registered 24,000 voters in Arlington County by engaging the greatest group of volunteers I have ever seen. So that cannot be stated highly enough, just how much Josh worked and all of the Young Democrats and all of the Democrats in this room worked to register voters this year and to get people out to the polls today. So thank you all. A few quick announcements from the Young Dem side. We actually have our own internal elections coming up because we really love voting in November. So if any of you are really eager between the ages of 13 and 36 and want to be on the front lines of our gubernatorial race next year, we're going to elect Ralph Northam as governor. Please come join us this Thursday at Heavy Seas in Roslyn from 7 to 9 p.m. We're going to be doing a bit of a meet and greet to learn more about the board. And then come out to the Arlington Young Democrats Executive Board elections on Wednesday, November 16th. And that will be in Virginia Square. Check out our Facebook page, our Twitter, more details will be there. Thank you all for coming out, and we hope to see all of you here next year for another victory party. Let's do this. And I'm going to now turn this over to our great party chair, Kip Malinowski.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, how's everyone doing tonight? All right. First of all, Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine believe that we are stronger together, from the schoolhouse to the White House. And that's been key to our success in Arlington. So first, I just want to recognize some of our elected officials and then just say a few quick words and then give it to our great candidates that we elected today. So first, calling you as I see you, we got our clerk of the court, Paul Ferguson. We've got our school board member, James Lander. Next to him, we've got Katie Crystal, our county board member. We've got our county board vice chair, Jay Fassett. Any other electeds out there? We've got our former school board member, Abby Raphael. All right, how many people here knocked on a door, made a call, did give it up for everyone, every single one of you? There's just too many people to thank, but one person I do want to single out who started Hillary for Arlington in Virginia, in Arlington, leading the way. Jill Cazzo just did a phenomenal job. Please give it up for her. So one quick thing, we now have 169,000 registered voters in Arlington. It looks like close to 40,000 people voted absentee. So if you're watching these numbers behind me, if you're looking at your phone, it's going to take a while for Virginia. It's going to take a while for North Carolina. That's because a whole bunch of us voted early. We voted absentee in person. Yeah, exactly. So those are the last votes to come in. but you better believe every single one of those votes counts. So it's just going to take some time, and we'll get there. And we are going to win this, but we really cannot just focus on the president alone. It's the schoolhouse to the White House. Every single office is important. We have got to win those, and I am proud to announce that every candidate on the ballot thus far, from the schoolhouse to Congress in Arlington, has won here. And we're lucky to have two of our terrific school board, terrific school board endorsees here with us, who are going to just tell us a little bit about themselves or about their campaigns. And I would like to turn it over first to our soon-to-be newest member of the school board, Tanya Talento. Give it up for Tanya.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. Really, I want to not talk too much. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. I want to thank God for bringing me here today, for allowing me to be a representative for an amazing, amazing community. I want to thank my husband and children because they have been with me along this whole journey. And for many of you who have been on the sideline watching it, you guys know it has been a wild ride. But I am here today because you guys voted for me, because I had your support. And I am honored and excited to be able to represent you on the school board. So thank you so much for that honor, and I will work my butt off to do an amazing job for our community. Thank you.
And now our school board chair, who has just been reelected, Nancy Van Doren.
Good evening, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here and to be in my third race in 2 years for school board. And I'm thrilled to have been elected again, and that's thanks to all of you who are here this evening. Your work, your effort, and being part of the joint campaign, Barbara, Kim, Maggie, was phenomenal. Just a phenomenal group of people. And when you're governing at the same time that you're running, having that team with you is amazing. And I would begin to single out people here, but it'd be too many people. But I have to say, folks, I love Don Beyer, I love Tim Kaine, but this is a woman's night. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win. My mom was the first selectman in the town. I grew up in Connecticut. I know she's here with me this evening, but my kids love to see their mom on the ballot with Hillary Clinton, with Libby Garvey, with Tanya Talento, and it's a precious, precious evening. Let's not forget that. Thank you all very, very much.
And from the chair of our school board to our newly re-elected chair of our county board, Libby Garvey.
Thank you so much. Now, we've said thank you to, I will tell you, this is my 15th campaign. I have never seen a joint campaign like this, so I would like to have us give it up again for, we're going to do Kip Malinowski too, because he's been an amazing chair, Kim, Barbara, and Maggie. Woo! So this is all about democracy today. All right, and I want to say, I haven't talked to her yet, but I want to give a shout out to Audrey Clement, my opponent. But you know, democracy, we campaign, we have debates, we get issues out there. It's healthy. It's really good. So I want to thank Audrey for running. It's not easy to run. And then I think what I'd like to finish up with is a story, if you'll indulge me, a short story. All right, so Halloween. Our schools do Halloween parades. And somebody who just moved here, their children are at Randolph Elementary School, and she told me about going to the Halloween parade. And she'd come from an area of the country that was pretty homogeneous. Randolph is not homogeneous. Randolph looks like the world, looks like Arlington. And she says the first thing she does is she sees the parents, and some of them are in saris, and some of them are in hijabs, and some of them are in blue jeans. And they come in all different colors, and they're speaking all different languages, and they're all there together because they love their children. And then the music starts, And it's energetic and it's wonderful and we like it, and the band starts to march, and there are 2 majorettes at the beginning of the parade. It's our Wakefield High School band, and they are really, really good. Woo! My grandson, by the way, is a freshman. Go Wakefield. All right, go Warriors. Yes. All right, so there are 2 majorettes. This is interesting, and they're hooking arms. And she realizes why. You know why they're hooking arms? Because one of the majorettes is blind. And you've got one blind, one seeing, both together, making beautiful music with the most diverse community around. Everybody, this is what we're fighting for. This is why Hillary has to win. We are stronger together. We know it here in Arlington. It is worth fighting for. There are people who are afraid of us. We need to not make them afraid. We need to win this one. I think we will, but I think, like all of you, I'm going to stop talking because, boy, Hillary's just got to win this. Thank you for everything you do, because if we pull this off, and I think we will, we have saved the world. Thank you.
So before we depart the stage, there were many times in this race we thought, oh, Hillary's going to win in a landslide. We've got this. We can never be complacent. That power of knocking on a door, making a phone call, registering a voter, going to a festival, talking to your friends, telling them vote, 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 vote. It matters, it matters, it matters. Every single election matters. And our impact is huge on that. So we have got to make sure that we keep that focus election after election. But tonight, it's going to be a long night. But we're going to make history. Hillary Clinton's going to be the first female president of the United States of America. Thank you very much. Oh, photo. Yeah. Let's get a photo.
Let's get Steve Baker up here. Steve. Jill.
All right, so those are the Arlington County Democrats here at Safecraft Brewing in Clarendon. The candidates for county board and school board, and the chair of the Arlington County Democratic Committee talking about what went on here tonight. And they were fairly confident that even though Hillary is trailing in Virginia right now, that the absentee ballots and 25% of something like 25% of ballots cast in Arlington, thereabouts, were absentee. They were fairly confident that those are going to go help Hillary, put Hillary over the top in this race, and those, of course, are counted last. So, live TV here, folks. We're gonna. We have a small team, and so what we're going to try to do here is go grab someone else for us to talk to, preferably Libby Garvey. So everybody's anxiously awaiting a MSNBC projection behind us. Too close to call in Michigan. All right. So. We're live. We're live right now.
So maybe if you put these on, you'll be able to hear Scott.
We're live on YouTube, believe it or not. So,
Thank you. All right, I haven't done this before. Hi.
all right. Hi, Libby.
It's a little quieter.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little tired and a little nervous.
It's been a long day, huh?
It's been a long year.
So, we just heard your speech up there.
Yeah.
But I wanted, so first of all, this is for those who don't know, and I can't imagine anybody watching the local election coverage on ARL Now doesn't know, but this is Libby
if
Garvey.
they moved here new, they might not know me. No.
Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey is here. Libby is victorious tonight. You were running against Audrey Clement, who ran as an independent. Audrey has run a couple of times. And you thanked her for running and said running's not easy.
Yeah,
I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. No, running is not easy, and it's so important to a functioning democracy to have people. You need a forum for ideas and to get them out there and to have a discussion. And a campaign makes everybody stronger and better, including myself. You have to hone your arguments. You've got to be able to make them. You've got to discuss them with people. That's important.
Absolutely. And so what was the campaign trail like this year? How does it compare to campaigns previous?
You mean the other 14?
Yeah, there have been a few. You've been involved.
There have been a few,
public life here
and
for a
that's
long
including
time.
primary campaigns, which are a very different thing. Well, as you know, I had a very difficult primary, and that was hard, and sort of unpleasant at times, mirroring actually the national race just a little bit more than I would have liked. But Audrey that was a much more sort of civilized, and it was a fine campaign, and I am pretty confident and comfortable, and Audrey, and she's a fine person. And so it wasn't a particularly stressful campaign for me, but you do have to be out there, and that's good. It just kind of keeps you on your game, which is important.
So when we recorded the podcast a couple weeks ago, I asked you a bit about the primary. We don't need to rehash that right now.
No, let's not.
But let me put it this way: we're in a room full of hundreds of Arlington Democrats.
Yeah.
Is this a unified party at this point?
Yes. Yes.
And I see Hillary and Tim pin on you.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that you were supporting Hillary, but there were some fissures in the party.
There were some fissures. It was very much local, and there were some people trying to say I wasn't a Democrat, but anybody who looked at it, clearly I'm a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. That really should not have been a question. And, it's like squabbles in a family to some extent, and it's over, and we're all united now. And I think the importance of this national race, and it is so frightening, the possibility of having Trump elected, has really pulled us all together. And you just forget about that's just petty stuff. This local politics it's important. It's important that we do, but our disagreements are just petty. They're done. We're moving on, and we've got to make sure that Hillary gets elected. I hope we've done it. I think we have, but we won't know for a while.
We won't know for a while because of the absentee ballots. Is that correct?
For here, I'm talking about the country. I'm pretty confident we've done it here. That's pretty clear. It's just you talk to anybody who's lived in Arlington, you can see that. But nationwide is another question, and it's a worry. Hopefully we've done it. I hope so.
What would theoretically a Donald Trump presidency mean for Arlington? Obviously, we live right next to the federal government, right next to Washington, D.C., so these things do have impacts on Arlington.
I'm not quite sure. I think if that would happen, I think we would be spending the next 4 years trying to maintain the rule of law and our Constitution, and making sure, because I don't believe that Trump and a lot of the folks that support him actually really understand the Constitution and have any kind of fealty towards it. And the rule of law is what makes our nation great. Anytime you get people living together, you've got disputes. We got to learn to solve them through the law, not through who's got the biggest gun or the biggest fist. And that's going backwards. So I think if that happened, that's probably what we would be struggling to make sure we maintained here.
He hasn't been a traditional Republican candidate in many ways, but in one way, we haven't really heard that much about spending cuts, which is what a lot of traditional Republicans would be talking about in a campaign. Obviously, federal spending has important to Arlington. What do you anticipate any effects like that from either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? What can Arlington expect in terms of our economy?
Well, I think if you
with
have,
either? They've both talked about infrastructure spending, which
right.
is probably a positive, but it's more so, the apparatus of government here that affects Arlington and the military.
Right. I think Hillary would. I think things would be more work on the infrastructure, which we need, and more investing in our people, which is what we need to do as a nation. Investing in education, investing in good quality health care, child care, all of those things. I think Trump is interested in investing in himself.
Okay.
Period.
Let's talk about Arlington.
Let's do that.
The race is over. We have it's early November now. In less than 2 months, we're going to start the new year under a new chair. You've been chair this year. Have you accomplished everything that you were hoping to accomplish during your time as chair? And if not, is it going to get done by the end of the year?
I think I pretty much have. I was thinking back over that. What I wanted to do was change kind of the way we work. So, right out of the bat, we started the transparency, the video streaming our work sessions so that people can watch them and not have to sit in the room, right? We have started working on, online applications for permits, which, it doesn't work as well as it should, and it needs to get better. But we started doing that, and there's an understanding that that's what we should be doing. It needs to be transparent, it needs to be efficient, it needs to be easy for people. We have started holding... I think our meetings are more transparent. We have better discussions. We actually have real discussions between board members, and that's really healthy, I think. We're all different people. We bring something different to the table, which I talked about a little bit in our podcast. And then we vote, and we move on, and we still like each other, and we think we're all... And that's a way of working that really is different. The quality of the discussion at the board table is very different. I think that will last, in part because of the people we have here, and that's the way we've been working, which is really good. We had the whole blue ribbon panel thing, which was really just a way. I just want to get going on some strategic planning, and then actually we did start that. It was more of a baby step than a bigger step, but I'm pretty sure we'll move forward on that. I never thought it would get done on my first year anyway, because that's a long-term project, but I think we're at least approaching it that way. So I'm really pleased about that. How we approach budgeting, for example, the carryover and the budget guidance we did in years past, that would come up in a meeting, in the November meeting, and people would see it for the first time during the meeting, and the board would discuss and vote, and done. And this time we had them out, we discussed it in October, and let it kind of sit out there and take comments from people and things, and then so when we vote tomorrow, on Wednesday, it will have been out there in the public forum for people to see, and that again is more transparent and allowing people to comment if they want, which I think is better. There's just a lot of that. And then working with people with the Fire Station 8, what a difficult discussion, but I think everybody felt their voices had been heard, and that hadn't always happened. Same thing with the driveway at Stratford. Again, I think the people that lived there, the real stakeholders, came and really talked to, and we listened to them, and I think it worked out better in the end. And I think in the past would not have had as good a discussion, nor would we have listened as much to the people who were the stakeholders.
All right. So
that's all to say. We still need to make decisions, and people can't just hold things up forever, which sometimes can happen.
So an optimistic note for 2016. What can we what are we looking forward to in 2017? What are we expecting to happen to come across the board's dais?
Yeah. Well, there'll be more. They're going to be more. The buildings and that kind of thing. I'm hoping actually that we will continue the sort of more efficiency we've gotten with the board, that we will get into our commissions, because there are a lot of people that think they might like to help out with our commissions and be involved, but they don't want to deal with the long meetings, if you will. So I'm hoping we'll find more ways. Yes. And not everybody can do that or wants to, but yet they have something to offer. So I hope we'll continue to move forward with getting people to participate more and making it easier for them to do that. I think in a way I'm not looking for anything really new, just continuing what I kind of started, and it's not just me, I'm working with my colleagues, but that we've started, and I think making government more more responsible too, more accessible to people, and helping people get involved, and more efficient. We need to be able to move quickly. I'm looking forward to, I hope, continuing to really bring down the office vacancy rate. That actually is something that, it's not too glamorous, but boy, we've got to do it because
It's an
that's a
uphill
really
battle.
important. It's a battle, and it's part because we're in competition with the area here, and we've got to be nimble in how we make our decisions. But we've got so much going for us. The world is coming to places that are. In fact, that's what you're seeing in this election. I hope we've pulled it off, the national election. People are leaving areas that don't have good health care, that don't have good education, that don't have good infrastructure. And they want to be smart, talented people want to be with other smart, talented people, and they want to live in a nice place to live, like here. And sort of what happens is more and more those people will gravitate to places like Arlington, and I want them here. I'd like this to be a center of global learning and intelligence is what I'd like. But that's, we'll keep evolving.
Absolutely. Okay, so I know you have an interview to do with French TV because your campaign manager told me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people know what goes into a local campaign, the fact that you have a campaign manager and so on and so forth. But I was wondering if you could just give us a little peek behind the curtain. If you're running for county board, what goes into that?
Wow. Well,
what have you been doing over the past couple months? And
well, I think I'll start from the beginning because I think I think it was practically textbook. I knew Scott from working together with things. I thought he'd be good. I asked him if he'd be my manager. This is now I ran a state Senate campaign and I had 2 or 3 paid employees then, a manager, a finance guy, whatever, and an office, much lower, smaller here, so you don't have to raise as much money. But we basically went through a thought process, and Scott asked me to just tell him, write up real quick what you want, what's your vision for Arlington? And that is actually how my campaign themes came out. Basically, that I want Arlington to, realize its potential, and how we do it is with good government services. So you get that, you get your message, and it's got to be authentic, and that's yours. And then you just start connecting with people, and you ask people if they'll support you. Some you can start with elected officials, and people that are recognized. Really, it's leaders in the community, which, as you saw with my campaign, is where I went. Because I think in this day and age, particularly in Arlington, actually any community, there are thought leaders that people admire. They may not be elected, they may not even be hardly famous, but to the group of people around there, they know that's the person you go to for advice, and that's who you respect. Those are your thought leaders, and you want to have them on your side. You want to listen to them. What do they need? Just constant sort of feedback, effort. You talk about your message and what you see, what do they see, and come back, and that helps you hone your message and make sure you're on track. And then you just do a lot of door knocking and getting out to see people, and that's what you really do. The manager helps figure out what doors to knock on, and there's some real who votes. So if you're going to win a primary, you got to know who votes in a primary. There's no sense in knocking on the door of somebody who tends to only vote in a presidential election to come out for a small caucus, because you'll spend a lot of time doing that and they won't come. So you got to really know what you're doing.
So there's a lot of data and
data analysis, and I don't tend to do. The guys tell me what they're doing, but I get really good data people. The secret to success, you hire really good people, and you let them do their work, and you listen to them.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So you have an interview with French TV.
I think I do. I'd say they found out I speak French, so we're going to go for it. We'll see.
I'm just fascinated that French TV came here. Did they bring the satellite truck? Or are you going to be live in France?
I'm not sure. It might be. I don't know. There are 2 of them here. I mean,
Scott's handling it.
Yeah, Scott's handling. Well, they're handling. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Actually, in this last couple of weeks, I've talked with Kurdish TV. I've talked with Ukrainian TV. I've talked with someone from Iranian TV.
Oh, wow.
And there was one other, and I'm going to blank on what it was. Somebody from Afghanistan. And then Voice of America. So this election's a big deal. I mean, the whole world is watching. I mean, those remarks I made earlier, I meant it. The world is counting on us. I hope we're going to pull it out here.
All right. Well, Libby, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Sorry about the headphone issues.
That's okay. We got it sort of figured out.
Say hi to everybody on YouTube. And on our... this is actually going to be a podcast later, so shout out to them as well.
That'll be fun. Thank you. I enjoyed the podcast earlier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so... That was Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey, victorious tonight. Thanks again. And while we await our next guest, I'm going to just provide a quick update here on the campaign and on the voting results. You can tell we're broadcasting tonight for about 2 hours. We're in the home stretch here about 15 minutes to go. I've actually never done this before, and I'm here to tell you that it's exhausting. It might look easy, but in fact, in relation to a lot of things, it probably is easy, but in reality, it's a little tough. All right, so as of right now, I am showing 74% of Arlington precincts reporting. And as we've been saying, that the last precinct to report is absentee ballots. So at least that's our understanding, and so we think that's going to come in a little later. In fact, looking right now, yes, central absentee is still at 0. It's precinct 00. Arlington has 52 electoral precincts. These are the places you go out and vote. So if you vote, in Fairlington Villages, then that's a precinct. If you vote in Lyon Park, that's a precinct. So we have 52 of these, plus the central absentee. Central absentee, which is going to be a large part of the vote here, has not been counted. So with 94% of the precincts reporting, Hillary Clinton 73%, Donald Trump 19%. Hillary has just over 58,000 votes to 15,000 for Donald Trump. That is a difference of 43,000, I believe, if my math is correct. That is a lot. That again, Arlington has a role here when it comes to presidential elections and the way that Virginia, which is a purple state, votes. Arlington obviously is a very blue area, and a lot of the excess votes that a victorious Democratic candidate will get in a presidential race comes from Arlington. So that's something to watch, is the vote differential and how many votes Arlington is sending to Hillary Clinton. Don Beyer, I think I called him Jim Beyer earlier. I apologize for that. Don Beyer is getting 67% of the vote to 29% for Charles Hernick. And as you can see, we have Jay Fassett, Arlington County Board member here. We are live on YouTube.
Is this?
Yes. And here are some headphones. How many thousands? Countless. We can't even count at this point. It's off the charts. I'll be honest, I have no idea how many people are watching right now. At the very least, it'll be a podcast later.
There is somebody watching.
Someone texted Katie, our producer, and said they're watching. So
okay, good.
There's at least one. So shout out to that one person. I also said that we would be reading comments live from our election coverage here. And I got to tell you, guys, you're not giving us much material to work with. We have the commenter Seattle or Pittsburgh, saying, "Get those results in Arlington. The whole country is watching now." All right, so let's start that over again. Jay Fassett, Arlington County Board member. Thank you so much for joining us here. Now that we've read a comment, we can interview the county board, the elected official.
Okay.
Our priorities might be in the wrong place. I'm not sure.
If I get distracted, it's because some more results came up on the screen.
Yeah, we've been getting periodic woos here, so something to expect. And we have a whole bunch of states right now that are too close to call. And certainly, if one of those goes the right way, we're going to hear a lot of woos.
Yeah.
So we might have to stop it at this point. I would just like to take a quick moment. I don't know if people can see your fantastic Democratic donkey tie here. This is very festive. Thank you. Appreciate that. We're actually broadcasting from, obviously the audio we're using, you see we're using microphones, but for the people at home, we're actually broadcasting from the FaceTime camera on my MacBook.
Oh.
So this is a real high-tech operation here.
Scott, you do
quality.
a great job. You do the best with the equipment you've got, you know?
So Jay, what are your thoughts on what's happening here in Virginia? Is Arlington and Northern Virginia going to be able to send enough votes Hillary's way for her to win?
Yeah, I think that it's true. I think that we will. Somehow over the years, the vote totals come in further to the south and they move their way north, which is a good thing for Democrats because this part of the county is very strongly Democratic. What really gives me hope is, having looked at the screen a minute ago, Fairfax was 2-1, Clinton, and they're not all in yet. And Prince William was 5 points up for Clinton, so 5 percentage points. So when you can be winning Prince William and Fairfax by those numbers, there is a high percentage of the state's population in the northern part of the state. I expect much of Arlington isn't yet counted, so I think you're going to see that difference between Trump and Clinton narrow. And as we've seen in a few other races like Jim Webb's years ago, once you get to the last votes in, I think she'll be fine.
I know people are probably freaking out a little bit, though, because they're watching the results come in for Virginia, and they're seeing that Trump is up, and a lot of the precincts, percentage-wise, are being reported in Northern Virginia. But it's the absentee ballots that are that some are thinking are going to make a difference here. When we checked in with the elections office midday, at that point, something like 25% of the turnout of active registered voters in Arlington had voted absentee. 25% is very high. Help us give us some context here. Is that going up? Why is everybody voting absentee? Why do you think this is happening?
I know even in my home precinct of Ashton Heights, where I usually end up the day on any election day, they had upwards of 800 early absentee voters, and about 1,300 or 1,400 at the polls. I mean, that's a high percentage. The reality is a lot of people wait longer in that absentee line, depending on what day they go, but they get it out of the way. They know they're not going to be disrupted. They know no emergency is going to happen that keeps them away. And the law, has certain criteria you have to meet, and essentially it's a little flexible in how you anticipate your election day to go and whether you have to be out of the county or not. And this avoids any problems developing by voting in advance. And I personally think early voting or absentee voting, whatever you call it, however you define it, should be embraced. And the more we have of that across the country, the better.
So let's talk Arlington County specifically. First question is, you are currently the vice chair of the board. Who is going to be chair next year? With Libby's term as chair is going to be done at the end of the year. Who is going to be chair next year? Do we know at this point?
The board will make that. We'll make that announcement as we usually do in December. There was a time we waited till January and held everybody in suspense, and now sometime in the early mid part of December, the board members will collectively decide who's going to be chair, and we'll make an announcement at that point.
The way it's usually worked in the past is that the vice chair becomes the chair, and then are you up for re-election next year? Is that
I'm in the third of a 4-year term. Next year is my 4th year, right? I am vice chair this year. You're right. So maybe the tradition will continue. We'll see.
We'll see. Are you going to be running for re-election next year?
And that's something I'm going to decide. I never announced that until early in the following year. And a number of people have been asking, and that I appreciate that, and I appreciate their support, and I love what I do. But I have no interest in announcing my intentions until the beginning of 2017. But thanks for asking, Scott.
We're trying to break some news on this broadcast. Come on. We're just telling people that Hillary Clinton got the most votes in Arlington. We got to give them something. So you are the longest serving member on the current board.
I am.
How would you say the board has changed over the years since you've when were you first elected?
I was elected in 1997 and began in 1998. So this is the end of 19 years. Actually, it'll be the 20th year. So 4-year terms. The county itself, I don't think there is a place in America that has changed and evolved more than Arlington. I mean, just look out there. I mean, people go with the Foreign Service or AID, they come back 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later, and they don't recognize certain parts of our county in certain blocks. And it's all with incredible planning. It's very intentional, and it has worked very well by and large. And we've managed that and had a vision that we aspired to. And there's no question that change is the only thing that you can count on. And Arlington's a great example of that. So the board has been reflective of that change each time for 20 years. We have, through a common vision, I think the vision has stayed quite consistent. And I worked with a number of colleagues for a number of years, and Paul Ferguson, Barbara Favola, Chris Zimmerman, Al Eisenberg back earlier. And this current board, they're all, except for myself, I think, new in the last 4 years. Libby's been on 4 or 5. John about 2 or 3, and then the other 2 just joined us earlier this year. And it's a good group, a talented group. And every time you get a new person on the board, they bring some of their own expertise, some of their own talents. And I think we're working well together. I think the past boards work well together too. We have really each new person, each new year, you bring new thinking. And what I don't want to see happen is just that we stop thinking and we just become technocrats. That wouldn't be good for Arlington. I think what's great about us is we have aspirations. We have a progressive set of values that call us, with all the talent here, to think a little bigger and to try a little harder and to do things that aren't always easy.
So we would, if you were to not choose to run for a re-election, the board would be losing a lot of institutional experience, institutional knowledge. Does that count for something?
Oh, you know that it does and it doesn't. I mean, yes, I feel that the experience that I have on the board certainly adds value to this board. There are people on the staff that have been here longer than I, 25 and 30 and 35 years. And they bring value to the decision making too, as do newer voices and newer ideas and this new disruptive economy that we have. So having the balance is a healthy thing, I think. There are no doubt that there are times I feel we are asking similar questions to those that were asked 5 years ago or 7 years ago or 10 years ago, and having someone, either myself or on staff, that experience that and can sort of talk to the former discussion to help inform the current one, that's a good thing.
Regardless of what happens in terms of that decision and who's chair next year, you're going to be on the board that year and for the duration in 2017. What are your priorities going to be on the board? What would you like to hope to see accomplished?
You know, it's interesting. I have a list of 20 things, really, that I could talk about. Tonight seems like the night to be watching the Clinton-Trump debate, or challenge here. But you know, I think what I'm going to do is hold off on answering that to any great degree, except to say that a lot of the progressive vision that we have in this county, whether it's in the environment, whether it's in our land use, whether it's our relationship and incredible school system, I will tell you that while we have to focus on basics, that's what Arlington always did better than anybody. And I've said that before. Mm-hmm. Those who want to retrench just to do the basics, we've always excelled at those, whether it was transportation and transit, whether it was schools. We did those at public safety, lowest crime rate in 40 years. We've always done that and invested in it and done it better than anybody. What has made us really a very special place is that we've done things beyond that. We have done our part for energy and climate and environment. We've done our stormwater management system, with great advances. We've done so many things that go beyond our library system is just outstanding. So many things that are aspirational and above and beyond that I think give us a great sense of community, help pull us together, but also tap into that special pride that I think is Arlington.
So Jay, I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to be, we set the time here as saying we'd be off the air at 9:30, but I think we're actually going to go a little beyond that. I believe we might have State Senator Adam Eben lined up. I did want to say before.
Did I generate a lot of interest? I mean, was I controversial enough, or?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Maybe not.
I did want to say before you go that when I started ARLnow in January 2010, you were county board chair.
Yeah.
And I've told you that. I think I've told you this before, but I did not know everything about Arlington when I started. I just sort of started almost a little bit on a whim, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And I thought.
What a success you've created, really.
Well,
no, seriously, you have a great following, and you do generally really good reporting.
Thank you very much. I appreciated you citing it during the towing discussion. If we had more time, I'd ask you about towing, but I'll let you off the hook on that one.
That would have been one thing to talk about. That would generate a few emails.
Yeah. Well, we put the story out today and had a quote or two from you, I believe, so people can take a look at that. But moral of the story is I thought you were county board chair for life, or that you were the county board chair. I didn't realize very, very early on that it rotated. So I've always referred to you as my county board chair forever. So Jay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott, and I'm love to
Appreciate
talk
your time.
about towing with you later in the week.
Oh yes, well we will. We have another month of this to get to. We have the approval next month, I believe. So we will talk more. Thank you, Jay. Okay, and so we have State Senator Adam Eben coming up. Hey, Adam, how you doing? We're live on YouTube, believe it or not. I think we're live on YouTube. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay.
So you're going to be our last guest here, unless one of the other candidates.
I'm honored.
Comes up. I'm honored to have you here.
Thanks.
State Senator Adam Eben. So we're supposedly live on YouTube. I assume it's still going. We set the thing to end at 9:30, but I think it just keeps on going.
Okay, great.
If not, we're just talking to each other for fun.
Well, happy to talk to you under any
funsies.
circumstance.
Well, thank you. So tell me about tonight and what you're seeing with the election results. What are you anticipating here in Virginia and nationally?
Well, I'm nervous. We're seeing on the networks, it says, or on CNN, that Virginia's too close to call. It's hard at these kinds of parties to get all the nuance of what hasn't reported and that sort of thing. I know that Fairfax County, at least their absentee precinct, is usually one of the last because they have tens of thousands of absentee votes to process. And under the law, they can't do that till after the polls close at 7.
Right.
So that'll be good. I don't know yet whether Arlington and Alexandria are fully reported into the state system, but I'm hopeful that we'll win here in Virginia. The polls were good for us, and the ground operation was very good, so we should win in Virginia. But I'll feel better when we do win in Virginia. Right. And I'm nervous about some of the states that it says are too close to call, and I'm hoping that's more because of the number of votes that have yet come in rather than it being truly close.
So in terms of Virginia, what would the difference be between a Hillary Clinton win and a Donald Trump win? Just in terms of, federal contracting is big, the Pentagon is big in Arlington and specifically in Virginia as a whole. What would you say is the difference between these two candidates in our backyards?
Well, I think they both support a strong defense. I think Hillary Clinton has sensible plans and has the experience and would have the advisors to do appropriate planning and make sure our military is right-sized. To hear Trump talk about it, and really all we know is what he talks about, he would just invest a lot in the military. I don't know whether he would do that haphazardly or if Congress would go along with that. I don't know that he has a detailed, well-informed policy plan based on his own knowledge.
So we've been talking about the election all night long. now that you're here, we have a chance to switch gears a little bit. In beginning of the year, the state legislative session will start. What can people in Arlington expect in terms of legislation that might affect us here?
Well, I think the thing that might affect people all over the state would be our budget. We have passed a 2-year budget, but because of tax collections being down significantly, we're going to have to make some painful cuts. And what we're working on, our delegation and Governor McAuliffe, is preserving the funds that were invested in education last year, the $1 billion investment, and hoping that doesn't get cut. So the governor will be presenting a budget to the General Assembly on the first Monday in December, and that's what we'll have to work from. He's been good about reaching out to members of the Finance and Appropriations committees, so hopefully it won't be radically different than what we end up with passing.
So the budget's big. Are there other, there have been pieces of legislation that have gotten a lot of attention before in the realm of women's health and some other issues here in Virginia. Are we going to see more of those kind of bills coming up?
Well, you may see some very controversial bills coming up, but I think you'll see a stalemate in terms of very controversial legislation becoming law, because the governor vetoed a lot last year, and I think he'll be prepared to veto things that are outside the mainstream again. So as long as we have this governor in place, even with the Republican General Assembly, I don't think you're going to see drastic changes on social issues.
So Virginia was the transvaginal ultrasound state. Are those bills continuing to come up in the state legislature?
Well, we've had a lot of extreme social bills, more so lately on LGBT rights, but the transvaginal ultrasound bill, it became law under Governor McDonnell. There's not, the Republicans in General Assembly won't vote to repeal it, so there's not much more in that order. You could find more bills dealing with abortion, but like I said, the governor will just veto them. I'm not sure that on choice that'll be the primary target. Mm-hmm. It seems like under the guise of so-called religious freedom that people are exhibiting or executing legislation that is designed to put the belief that marriage is only between a man and a woman over the rule of law of the Supreme Court that we have marriage equality in Virginia. That's a losing proposition, but it could have ended up like North Carolina's HB2.
Right, the so-called bathroom law.
Right. And the bill that led to so many corporations, the NBA, boycotting North Carolina, we could have ended up in a circumstance like that if not for Governor McAuliffe's veto.
So on LGBT rights in Virginia, it's, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe you have introduced legislation to repeal some language that is against marriage equality in Virginia.
That's right.
That's still on the books, despite, even though the Supreme Court has nullified it, essentially. It's still on the books.
Yeah, in the Code of Virginia, the Code of Virginia specifies that only a man and a woman may be married, as does the Constitution of Virginia. And I've introduced with Delegate Mark Sickles of Franconia legislation to repeal both the constitutional and statutory bans. Those are not going to pass easily, but it's going to probably be a multi-year effort that needs to be made. People deserve that dignity under their laws. I also continue to work on non-discrimination in state hiring. We've made some advances last year in that there were some House Republicans who were willing to vote against the so-called religious freedom bill, which is great, but it's still passed. So we're just working on a wider coalition. Another area that we might see some movement is on marijuana reform or sentencing reform. My bill to stop the suspension of driver's licenses for people who are caught with even a small amount of marijuana. Last year that passed the state Senate. This year I believe that the prosecutors will be helpful because of a change we're going to make in the bill. And I'm hopeful we'll make some advance in the House. My goal is to pass it, but step by step.
So you've in the past been endorsed by NORML, the organization that's trying to legalize marijuana. in the U.S. Could you, and other states like Colorado have taken that step. D.C., I believe, has decriminalized marijuana as well. Can you see Virginia taking that step at some point in the future?
Sure, at some point. It's a question of what point in the future.
So will you still be in the general the legislature?
Well, I'd rather fight than quit, so I hope to be. I hope to be there to make that happen. I do have another decriminalization bill again this year, and we had the Republican leader of the Senate tell his local city council that he supported taking a look at marijuana decriminalization. That wasn't an endorsement of decriminalizing marijuana this year, but it's a hopeful sign.
Why is this a fight that's worth continuing to, a battle that's worth continuing to fight?
Well, we know that the prohibition on marijuana in the United States and in Virginia has failed, that large numbers of Virginians and others smoke marijuana without harm to others and peacefully and without causing any more harm than someone would by having alcohol, and perhaps significantly less negatives from it. So we don't need a law to prohibit what people are doing that doesn't need to be stopped for the good of society. And I'm not calling right now for legalization, though I support that. We're going to have a really interesting set of data from states that have legalized. But for now, let's just stop ruining people's lives with criminal records.
Are there any other bills that you're introducing this year that you think are worth pointing out briefly? We have about 2 minutes left.
Well, all my bills are worth.
I know all of them. I'm trying to get you to do.
But
is,
they have not all been. They have not all yet been filed. We're still doing significant research on a lot of legislation, but hoping to have some more common sense ABC legislation and working also on a few environmental things.
So on the ABC side, is that talking about like advertisement of liquors? I know that on our site, we have some restaurants that are clients and they cannot advertise what their happy hour special is because that's an ABC law. It seems like a lot of what goes on at ABC is a bit antiquated. What are you specifically hoping to achieve there?
Well, the whole ABC section of the code has been antiquated. What I was able to get some movement on this summer was in the past, in order to have your spirits license, distilled spirits, you had to sell a certain dollar amount worth of what's termed substantial food, meaning a protein and 2 side dishes that is customarily served at one of the 3 times a day when meals are typically consumed.
Okay.
So I had a bill to fix that. It was studied over the summer, and in the interim, ABC changed its rules. So small steps. We are looking about how ABC sites its stores in different communities, and if there's community input into that at all. Had ABC set up a store next to an existing daycare center recently.
Maybe not the best place for it.
No. It turns out the daycare center moved around the corner anyway, but we've got a group of parents see if we can impact that. And then there's just all kinds of antiquities. For a bar can't rent a beer truck. In D.C. they can, but if a bar wants to have a beer garden with a beer truck, that's not kosher.
It's we'll be watching. We'll be watching certainly what happens in the state legislature. That all starts happening in January. Is that correct?
That's right. January 11th we get in session, and a lot of it is small steps on issues that affect people in their everyday lives, and there's also the opportunity to introduce calls for larger changes, which sometimes move a little slower than I want, but. I've been there for 13 years, and I'm going to stick it out on a lot of these.
Fair enough. All right, you want to stay here with me while I sign off?
I'd be delighted to.
Okay. Well, everybody, I do believe that is all we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you've been watching for all 2 hours and 15 minutes, wow. Email me. I'll send you a free shirt if you did that. You have to prove it, though. I don't know how you're going to do that. But
Scott's going to have a quiz, so...
If you could somehow prove that, take a screenshot, email it to me. For everybody else who might have tuned in for a brief amount of time, might be listening on a podcast, thank you. We are signing out here from Saycraft Brewing in Arlington, where we're continuing to watch the election results. Stay tuned to ARLnow.com for full coverage of the local results. You're welcome to watch your news channel of choice for the national results. I'm Scott Brodbeck, ARLnow.com editor. This is State Senator Adam Eben. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, and good night, Arlington.
Good night.